Previously we have heard a growing murmur across Europe: the safety net for Ukrainian refugees is fraying. Why are thousands of people who once found hope now staring at a ticking clock that could erase their newfound lives? The temporary protection granted 3 years ago is nearing its end, and the budgetary plates are groaning under the weight of billions spent. Kyiv presses relentlessly, demanding the return of men of fighting age, while many host nations scramble to keep their immigration systems from collapsing. Those who broke the rules, lived on aid, or crossed borders illegally now stand at the front line of risk. Those who hold legal jobs, pay taxes, study the language, and stay invisible to police cling to a fragile chance of staying, but even they face an uncertain horizon as European policies tighten, increasingly linked to military aid for Ukraine. The question lingers: will the continent keep its promise, or will the doors shut forever? In the last segment we learned that Europe has shouldered the humanitarian burden for 3 long years, turning schools into classrooms for displaced children and apartments into temporary homes. What began as an unprecedented act of compassion is now being rewired into a cold calculation. Governments funded medicine, patched roofs, and handed out cash assistance, but the tone has shifted dramatically. Politicians now remind us that temporary protection was never meant to be permanent. As the renewal deadlines loom, each country must decide its next move. The Netherlands announced early on that after the conflict ends, no Ukrainian refugee would automatically stay. Denmark and Sweden echoed this stance, later joined by others. At the time, many dismissed these statements as mere rhetoric. Today, 3 years later, with record-high expenditures and Kyiv's relentless calls for more soldiers, those words have hardened into concrete mechanisms. Return centers have opened in Poland, the Czech Republic, and Germany, and parliamentary debates circle around a single point: the protective veil is lifting, and deportations may follow. Previously we saw the financial strain tightening its grip, with Poland spending billions each year, Germany pouring tens of billions, and France and Italy crying out over mounting social costs. Can any nation sustain such a tide forever? Norway, with its vast welfare fund, now signals it will not feed an endless stream of newcomers. The budgetary crunch is only one side of the coin; a second, more urgent shortage looms: labor. Europe pours dozens of billions into defense factories and infrastructure, yet faces a stark deficit of workers. Kyiv openly declares that Ukrainian refugees could fill the frontline gap, making men of conscription age the most coveted target. Municipalities in Germany and Norway are compiling dossiers on every resident, checking departure reasons and document validity. Poland's rule is blunt: any legal breach instantly lands a person on an undesirable list, and repeat offenses trigger deportation. Special provisions already allow sending people back to a war zone, and such measures are now in motion. In the final glimpse we observed the human faces behind the statistics. The first wave of checks focuses on those who fled without reserve call papers. Refugees report harsh interrogations: why did you leave? Where are your military documents? Any mismatch becomes a risk. A second group, those who spent 3 years surviving solely on aid, are labeled by bureaucrats as dead weight. Those who never sought formal employment or paid taxes are the first to be marked, yet even diligent workers who contribute taxes feel insecure. If the conflict continues and Kyiv demands fresh manpower, anyone lacking an official deferment becomes vulnerable. Documents are being revoked, automatic fines issued, white tickets declared void. Already, thousands receive penalty notices and wanted alerts. Stories are mounting. A man in Italy was deported for a minor infraction and handed over directly to the Ukrainian consulate. A family in Germany, living on benefits for 3 years, received a municipal order to leave within a week. In Poland, minor offenders were expelled without trial. These incidents are no longer isolated, they signal a new trend. European leaders now bluntly state, integration only works for those who bring economic value. Germany debates swapping temporary protection for work visas, demanding salaries of at least €4,500 gross, regular pension contributions, and savings accounts, standards many locals can't meet, let alone recent arrivals. The story ends on a chilling note. The European Union prepares a fresh €130 billion aid package for Ukraine, framed as future reparations, yet the underlying logic treats refugees as a reserve of living manpower to be sent back to the front. The humanitarian narrative gives way to a military calculus. As the sweet month of open-armed generosity fades, local sentiment shifts, and every Ukrainian with a Ukrainian license plate feels the eyes of neighbors grow colder. No single solution unites the continent, each nation plots its own course. Some will keep those who work legally, others will launch mass returns. The inevitable truth stands stark: the era of free, indefinite shelter is over, and the first lists for repatriation are already being compiled. The clock is ticking, and for millions of refugees, the hardest decision lies ahead. The previous segment explained that temporary protection is set to end, budgets are collapsing, and Poland spends billions of euros annually on Ukrainians while Germany allocates tens of billions. France and Italy are voicing concerns over rising social burdens. What if the safety net that kept millions of families afloat suddenly vanished, leaving them to scramble on streets that echo with sirens and the rustle of unpaid bills? Imagine a continent that once opened its doors now counting the cost of each breath, weighing every passport against a looming deadline that could turn hope into exile. Norway, with its vast welfare fund, now signals that endless feeding is unsustainable. Aid turns into cost-cutting, a cold reality. A second pressure builds: a shortage of workers. Europe pours tens of billions into weapons factories and infrastructure, yet hands are missing. Kiev openly declares that refugees could fill the battlefield gap, making Ukrainian men the prime target. Local offices in Germany and Norway compile files on every individual. They verify exit reasons, demand documents. In Poland, a single breach instantly lands a person on an unwanted list. A repeat offense triggers deportation. New clauses even allow sending people back to war zones, and those rules are already in force. Special centers in western Ukrainian regions now house the deported. Reporters record stories of those transferred straight from Italian police stations to Ukrainian military offices. The first wave of checks focuses on those who left without reserved documents. Refugees report harsh municipal interviews: why did you leave? Show your military papers. Any mismatch becomes a danger sign. A second group consists of those who survived 3 years on benefits alone. To European bureaucracy they appear as ballast. Those who never sought legal work or paid taxes are the first to be listed. Yet even workers who earn wages and file taxes feel exposed. If the war drags on and Kiev demands fresh manpower, anyone without an official deferment becomes vulnerable. Most lack such protection. Papers are nullified, fines issued automatically, white tickets declared void. Already, thousands receive penalty notices and arrest warrants. Stories multiply. In Italy, a man was expelled for a minor infraction, handed directly from a police station to the Ukrainian consulate. In Germany, a family living on aid for 3 years received a municipal letter demanding they leave within a week. In Poland, individuals with minor offenses are deported without a trial. These incidents are no longer isolated, they form a growing pattern. European leaders now voice a stark mantra: integration is reserved for those who bring economic value. Germany debates swapping temporary protection for work visas, but the criteria are daunting: gross salaries of at least €4,500, regular pension contributions, substantial savings. Even many Germans struggle to meet these thresholds. For Ukrainians, they seem almost unreachable. Yet a slim hope remains for those who secured skilled jobs and can prove stable income: they may transition to a new status. The majority, however, find themselves trapped in a harsher reality, still dependent on benefits or living in uncertainty. Those who fled rural villages without language skills or trades are especially at risk. Officials note that such individuals most often break rules and attract police attention, becoming the first caught in mass returns. A parallel alarm sounds over Ukraine's financing. Europe prepares a fresh aid package of €130 billion earmarked for future reparations. Economists compare it to a loan granted to a player who must win later. Money flows, factories run, weapons are produced, but the decisive resource remains human. Refugees now appear as a reserve of living force that could be recalled to the front. This logic echoes increasingly from European capitals. Humanitarian protection, once emphasized, is now shadowed by military necessity. Kiev insists, Europe concedes, and refugees become bargaining chips. The specter of deportation, once unimaginable, now dominates discussions. Families scramble: some chase legal work and education, others seek second passports, still others plan moves to third countries. Even in the most affluent nations, the threat of a municipal summons looms. Polish streets bear Ukrainian plates scrawled with insults, German neighborhoods report growing hostility. The honeymoon period has ended, and locals' moods shift. Europe lacks a unified solution. Each country acts on its own terms. Some will keep those officially employed, others brace for mass returns. The overarching trend is clear: freebies are gone, and the illusion that temporary protection will become permanent is fading. The outlook for Ukrainians grows bleak. Lists for return are already forming. Authorities target men of conscription age, track illegal crossings, monitor benefit abuse. Even diligent workers face risk. Political agendas now outweigh personal stories. Europe is ready to spend billions, but Kyiv demands manpower in exchange. The question is no longer whether status will be revised, but who will be affected first. For millions of refugees, the answer is stark: temporary protection ends, and the hardest scenarios await. What will happen when the final deadline arrives, and the doors that once welcomed them begin to slam shut? A storm is gathering over Europe's refugee corridors. Why are once welcome Ukrainian men now counted as expendable troops, and what lies behind the sudden surge of deportation notices that flash on kitchen tables like warning lights? The answer hides in shuttered doors, emptied bank accounts, and the echo of distant artillery. In the weeks that followed, thousands of Ukrainians received fine notices and wanted posters. Their passports were cancelled, white tickets declared void. Every buzzing phone call carried the scent of fear, the metallic clang of bureaucracy. Families whispered about the ending of temporary protection, while street vendors heard the rustle of papers being torn apart. The question hung in the air: will the safety net finally snap? The night grew colder, and the next chapter waited to unfold. The previous segment revealed a wave of fines, revoked documents, and the looming threat of mass return. A fresh headline sparks curiosity: could a single petty offense in Italy become a passport to the Ukrainian consulate, and what does a German municipality's demand to leave within a week reveal about Europe's new calculus? In Italy, a man was taken from a police station, handcuffed, and handed over to officials. In Germany, a family who survived 3 years on aid received an eviction notice, 7 days to pack their lives. In Poland, minor infractions vanished without trial, and deportations proceeded like a silent train. Officials now chant, only those who add economic value may stay. Germany drafts a shift from temporary shelter to work visas. But the thresholds are fierce: a gross salary of €4,500, regular pension contributions, savings that many locals can't meet. For most refugees, these goals feel like climbing an unmapped mountain in a storm. Meanwhile, Europe readies a €130 billion aid package for Ukraine, framed as future reparations. Economists compare it to a loan that must be repaid with future victories. Factories hum, weapons clang, yet the human engine stalls. Kyiv demands more men, the continent agrees, turning displaced civilians into a draft pool. Who will be the first to be swept away when the new rules take effect? The answer lies in the next policy meeting, where the fate of countless lives will be weighed against cold spreadsheets. As the specter of deportation looms over Ukrainian refugees in Europe, its once unimaginable reality is now a pressing concern. Families are rapidly strategizing their next moves. Some seek routes to legalization through employment or education, while others apply for second passports or contemplate relocation to third countries. Yet, amidst these efforts, there's a chilling uncertainty: not even the most stable nations can guarantee safety from abrupt municipal notices. On the streets of Poland, cars with Ukrainian plates are met with hateful slurs, while reports of hostility in Germany increase. The initial welcome has faded, and local sentiment is shifting ominously. Simultaneously, Europe stands divided. Each country grapples with its own approach. Some may hold on to those employed officially, while others prepare for large-scale returns. A poignant truth has emerged: no free ride will last forever, and the naive hope that temporary protection would evolve into permanent residence is vanishing. The reality for many Ukrainians is unsettling. Lists for repatriation are already being devised, scrutinizing age groups for military conscription, monitoring illegal crossings, and documenting welfare abuse. Even those who have strived to work legally find themselves at risk. In the political arena, personal narratives are eclipsed by larger agendas. Europe is ready to invest billions, but this comes with a caveat: Ukraine must return its people. The debate has shifted from whether statuses will be re-evaluated to whom they'll affect first. For millions of refugees, the answer is painfully clear. The window for temporary protection is closing, and harsh realities await. As fear grips the hearts of countless families, an unexpected twist unfolds. Behind the walls of government offices, negotiations simmer over a potential deal that could redefine the future. Could refugees find not just a path to stay but also a new destiny that lies beyond the battlefield? The stakes are rising, and the clock is ticking. Will Europe choose humanity over political expedience, or will desperation dictate terms that no one can escape? The edges of hope sharpen, but so do the realities of war. Prepare for what comes next. It's a story that could change everything in ways no one expects.